Welcome back to the South End. So I think the episode was stuck in the portal. Um, took a minute for the record to actually take, um, but it is committed to actually finishing this show.
hmm
So here we are. It is transfer portal time. You guys still have way too much work to do to be worried about the transfer
I
portal, but
know.
that doesn't mean you aren't in the mix for I guess he was the number one. Now he's the number two recruit out of the portal. Um, the Singleton kid out of Georgia
hmm
Tech, who's a really good receiver, but this Mateer kid transferred from Washington State. And look, Washington State, they have a good history of quarterbacks. Drew Bledsoe, Ryan Leaf. They've got some guys who've come out of the Coug Nation to be pretty good, at least high draft picks.
hmm
So he transferred to Oklahoma. So
Yep.
he's gonna be taking Jackson Arnold's spot over there. So that's gonna be pretty interesting. But yeah, as you guys get prepared for, I guess watching games this weekend to see who you're gonna play in a week and a half. LSU is just cleaning up in the transfer portal.
Y'all are, man. Holy
Just
shit, dude. It's pretty damn impressive what y'all are doing.
yeah, it's and so the I'm going to use On Three just because
That's what I've
I,
been
I
looking
like
at.
their format and everything, but their
hmm
their rating system is a little bit weird because right now they have Texas Tech at number one. They've got 12 transfers and they've only lost 11. They lost a bunch of uh, just duds, a 65 and a half average rating, picked up around an 85 and a half average rating. And Ole Miss has done pretty well too, picking up a good bit of solid players.
hmm
Seven 4 stars and three stars, and they lost just their 11 players are all 3 stars. And then same thing with Texas Tech, eight. And they lost one 4 star. They lost 10 3 stars, replaced them with four. So when you replace 12 mostly 4 stars with, 11 mostly 3 stars with 12 mostly 4 stars, you're going to do pretty well. But if you go down here and you scroll down to LSU, for whatever reason, we're number 16, but we've replaced, 14 3 stars with, and two 4 stars with three 4 stars and six 3 stars. But that's like their high school rating.
Yeah. They
And
not re didn't that re-rank I thought they
They
re-ranked
do,
them
they
for
do, but it's
transfer.
kind of weird. Like it's
Yeah.
so hard to
It's
tell. You've got dudes that were 5 stars coming out of high school that for some reason now they're 4 stars or 3 stars or whatever,
hmm
and then some of the stuff just stays flat. But I want to get into like some of the specific guys because like while we were talking about specifically the Georgia Tech, going after Eric Singleton um, out of Georgia Tech, the guys that LSU picked up at receiver are right there. They might not
hmm
be the number one receiver, but they're right there. The guys that we lost though, CJ Daniels did really well a couple of years ago at Liberty. Didn't have a great year at LSU. Like he was solid. He was a like reliable possession guy, but LSU needed someone to take off the top of the defense. Xavier Atkins was a bit player who wasn't really getting a whole lot of playing time. But you pick up Nick Anderson, who I was showing you the stats. Like you look at his now, he missed this past year with a quad injury, and I have a little bit of concern. I'm not. I'm going to be honest. The fact that he missed the entire season with a quad injury, like what the hell was wrong with his quad?
hmm
That's a weird injury to miss that much time with. And is he going to be back to 100%? But there seems to be a reason why everybody was going after him. Apparently, he's working out and he's recovered and everything should be good. But this dude was just he averaged 21 yards per reception as
Damn.
a redshirt freshman. Okay, and if you remember the game winner Dylan Gabriel
hmm
threw against Texas a couple of years ago, that was a play designed for Nick Anderson. He had one catch for 3 yards in that game, and it was that touchdown to win the game against Texas. But you look at his numbers throughout that whole redshirt freshman season, averaging 21 yards a catch. He had 38 receptions for almost 800 yards and 10 touchdowns. So every like third or fourth catch was a touchdown. And I was showing you, you look at all those in every game. I think there were like three, maybe four games where he didn't have a catch over 40 yards. So that's one of the things that LSU was lacking was that
Hmm.
deep threat over the top. With a guy like Garrett Nussmeier, if all he's allowed to do is just dink and dunk, it makes it really easy to defend. And then when Chris Hilton
Yeah.
came back, he was that deep threat, but then he was having all the problems with timing his jumps, jumping when he didn't need to be jumping. And he comes back again as well. So you've got him, you got Nick Anderson, Destin Hill, another speed burner out of New Orleans, a little smaller, but because Nick Anderson's 6'3",
Mm.
almost 6'4". Destin Hill's only 6 foot, but at 200 pounds, pretty compact, well built dude who can also take the top off of a defense. But then LSU went into the portal, got a couple of DBs, Mansour Delane, and who was the other kid? They had another safety. Jakeem Jackson. Yeah, that's the big one, the one out of Florida. So Corey Raymond doing his thing, doing his Corey Raymond thing, and you look back at some of the guys that Corey Raymond has brought through, and they're all playing in the NFL now. Derek Stingley, Tre'Davious White, Deion Jackson. I mean, I'm sorry, Dante Jackson. All there's this long litany of dudes that Corey Raymond has brought through LSU. Wasn't able to necessarily do that as well at Florida, but he's turning it on here where he's going and getting those guys out of the New Orleans and Baton Rouge area. LSU went and got a couple of edge rushers too, Jamari Butler and Jack Pyburn out of Nebraska and Florida. And of course, we talked about it away from the show privately about Michael Van Buren. This dude put up 300 yards on you
Yeah,
guys
dude, that's
and
crazy.
and got it done. So he's going to come in as a redshirt sophomore, and he's going to be the or one of the guys in waiting anyway for as Garrett Nussmeier finishes out his final year of eligibility, and then he'll just compete for the starting job with Colin Hurley and AJ Swan. I would expect AJ Swan's probably going to transfer out if I'm being
Mm.
honest. Came from Vanderbilt last year, and he's probably like at best third in the pecking order at this point
Yeah.
as the backup to Garrett Nussmeier. And another big guy that they got, Barian Brown from Kentucky, another really good receiver, highly touted in this transfer class. And so getting those guys and then going and getting a tight end like Bauer Sharp as you lose Mason Taylor to the draft, Kamorian Pimpton transferred out, um, and Trades Green, big body, but more of a receiver guy. Needed a guy like this at 6'5", 245, who can actually be an inline blocker, go get things done so that you aren't telegraphing what you're going to be doing whenever that guy's out there. That was one of the good things about Mason Taylor is that you knew that if Mason Taylor was on the field, it could be just a power run play, but it could also be, you know, a seam route to
Hmm.
Mason Taylor himself. So having a guy like Trades Green, if he's not as accomplished as a blocker, you're going to feel a little bit more iffy about putting him out there in run situations. So it kind of telegraphs to the defense. All right, this guy's out here. This is a pass
Yep.
play.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so that's kind of where things are right now. Ole Miss is doing its thing again. Cleaning
Auburn's
up in the
paying
portal.
people. Auburn's just throwing money at whoever.
Yeah.
Auburn's picked up with Jackson Arnold. Like there's like a lot of QBs making
Hmm.
the move around, and I felt bad. Bo Perbula is transferring from Penn State. I
Weird
know that
timing too,
it's
because
weird
like
timing, but it's
he could
yeah,
actually, well, but he could actually, I think he could potentially boost his stock if he does something in a backup role. If he comes in,
yeah.
something happens to Drew Aller and he has to come in and
He
makes a
did it.
couple of
He did it
plays.
in the season. He did it in
Yeah.
regular season. He came in and
So maybe
took
he's
care of
just
business.
banking on that. Like it's not worth the gamble
I
and having
guess
to wait.
not, and it's
Yeah.
unfortunate because he is like a Pennsylvania guy,
Hmm.
Penn State family. I don't like, and Franklin kind of made it very clear that he didn't really want to have to transfer. He also
Hmm.
didn't really want to have to do it now. Like they're like
Right.
because they're about to be in the playoff. Like, and
Hmm.
we talk. That's one of the topics we wanted to kind of Like, what is the perfect scenario for the transfer portal? The answer is there is no perfect scenario for the transfer
No.
portal because this is uncharted territory. They say,
Well,
why can't they wait till after the playoff? Why can't they wait till after the bowl game? It's like, well, because these kids got to go to class at the school they're going to be at.
yeah.
And they actually have to be students at the school they're
Hmm.
going to go to. Like, it's still school. Like, the academic semester starts,
That's what
and
it
you
was
have to
supposed to
be
be.
in class.
This used to be about college. Like we were talking
Right.
about it before we came on about how like these guys jumping from school to school to school to school. Like
Like,
it's one thing to
dude, like,
have
do
a
your credits
like
transfer that many times? Like,
yeah,
shit.
well it's one thing to have like a Russell Wilson play his whole career
Right.
at NC State and then transfer after he graduates for his
Same with
final year of
Hurts.
eligibility to
Grad
Wisconsin.
transfers are so different. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Or to have, have a Joe Burrow or a Jaden Daniels do what they
Mhm,
did. To have Will Howard transfer to Ohio State
mhm.
to get an opportunity to play for a national title. Those kinds of things. I get it to you want to step up and elevate yourself one time. But this stuff of like we talked about TJ Finley, is on like his sixth school, fifth school, something like
It's
that at
the,
this point.
Josh McCown, Ryan Fitzpatrick's of college
Yes,
football,
that's right. That's
like,
right. Or
wearing a
so Immaculate Grid has you familiar with Immaculate
yes, I
Grid?
am.
Yeah, so they have the for baseball, they have the it's like the Edwin Jackson
Mhm.
sweepstakes where because it's like a dude who has played for like 17 teams. You just kind of like guess if you're struggling, just guess Edwin Jackson because there's a very good chance that he played for both of those
Yeah,
teams.
that's what I mean. So,
So,
like, these guys are, like, turning like, JT Daniels even did it coming, his whole,
mhm,
college career. Like, I don't know, like, what the end goal is because it's not to get a college degree. Because I don't like I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't know how his credits remotely transfer from that many schools in a
right,
row. Like,
right.
and we
Well,
talk about, like,
okay, so
transfers.
here's an interesting point that since you said that, my sister-in-law is a professor at TCU,
Okay.
and she was telling me about how it's crazy, but they are changing their credit setups and requirements for this.
Oh, wow. So
Like
it's
it's
easier to
crazy. She
transfer
said
in?
it's a very bad, dangerous precedent to be setting to
Where
have and
colleges are
and
changing
this
their
is TCU.
academic.
TCU is like a pretty good like academic school.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine what Florida State's doing, what
Dude,
Miami's
if
doing.
colleges are restructuring their academic, like, structure,
Hmm.
like, their how they, how credits work
How
and
yeah,
how
how credits transfer basically is
yeah,
what
that's
they're having
around this,
to
that's insane.
consider how these things will work because
Yeah,
of these dudes be to make it to where it's easier for these guys to transfer and
yeah,
it's so what we were saying about with like TJ Finley and those kinds of things and so like even like a Bo Nix, okay, so because it's funny, TJ Finley and Bo Nix are a good comparison because Bo Nix started off at Auburn. His dad went to Auburn,
uh-huh,
but it just wasn't working out at Auburn.
mhm,
And so he's like, look, I think I can really do something if I go
yeah,
somewhere else. And I think if I stay here, I don't know what's going to happen. Coaches, they had multiple different coaches while he was there,
and he
and
gave it a
everything else.
run too. It's not like he transferred after
Right,
his first year at Auburn.
right. And so he transfers to Oregon, contends for a national championship, doesn't, comes up short, contends for a Heisman even,
Mhm,
right? And now look at him. Get, highly drafted NFL quarterback starting for the Broncos and doing well
yeah,
starting for the Broncos. Compare that to TJ Finley. Started off at LSU, went to Auburn, lost the job to Bo Nix, only played when Bo Nix got hurt, like those kinds of things. And then
mhm,
ends up transferring multiple other times. And that's the other thing. I don't understand how these people still have eligibility. Like some of these dudes have transferred, and there's one, oh gosh, Lindsey Hunter. No, I can't. Anyway, he he started off at LSU when Les Miles was here. He went to Zachary here locally. Came to LSU, transferred out after a year, maybe two. He finished last year his seventh year of eligibility. I think you and I talked about it. Like blew the doors off. Like threw for like 50, 60 touchdowns or something
yeah.
crazy. Threw for like 4,500 yards or something. Just insane numbers. But he was at like he was in his seventh year of playing, and he was at his fifth or sixth school.
Yeah, it's well, and even like if you're not transferring schools, like I would not let the fact be known that
Hmm.
I went to college, I graduated with my degree, I
Right.
have been a working individual. I will be a working individual for the fourth year in my career, starting in May. And me and Cam Rising are the same age.
You graduated high school the same year.
Yep. Like,
Yeah. So the
it's insane
I
with the
can't remember
eligibility, man.
Lindsey Turner. I can't
I don't
remember what his
know.
name was, but
I know you
anyway,
had mentioned
he
it.
yeah he's a little bit different. I have a little bit more sympathy for him because he transferred or he goes to LSU. Then the COVID stuff happened, or I think it was like Joe Burrow, and
Hmm.
then COVID stuff, and then he goes to another school and like something happened with that school's program, and so he had to go to another one, and it was
Hmm.
just he's bouncing around in like
Yeah.
Division 2, Division 1A, or 1AA, whatever FCS schools and
Hmm.
everything. Um, Mixed in an incarnate word and some other stuff in there, here and there. So I have a little bit more sympathy for that because there were some other circumstances, and like even we talked about the who's a kid from Miami who's like in his ninth year or whatever, and you
Oh,
see like all the
McCormick.
injuries.
He only yeah he in like 6 years he only played like maybe 2 years worth of college football, like
Right,
because of
right.
being hurt so many times.
Yeah,
McCormick.
and didn't transfer a million times either. He
He
transferred a
tried to
couple
take
times.
he kept trying. No, he only transferred the one time. He kept trying to make it work at Oregon up
Oh,
until he
okay. So
transferred to
he
Miami.
only transferred the one time. Okay,
Yeah, but
okay. So
but it was more of like he had so much like because he kept trying to he
hmm
kept getting medical red shirts because he
right,
kept trying to
right.
make it work. He kept coming back and then
Hmm.
unfortunately he continued to get hurt.
It just seemed like he transferred a bunch of
It
times.
does, but he only
But
did it
but
once.
anyway,
He's played, but yes, not he and I are also the same age. I think he might even be older than me. Actually,
yeah,
he
he's probably
was.
older than you.
He's the class above me in high school, which is even crazier.
Hmm.
Um, and I just think the moments of the transfer portal, you have these big names moving, and it's even better when you hear guys willing what they're staying, like your
Yeah.
Nussmeyer. I just want to say the funniest thing ever is Bear Alexander posing. I don't know if you saw this, posing in a Penn State uniform, flexing up the bicep with a Georgia G tattooed right here. like,
He's just like you, Tyler.
like,
Just like you.
like like literally with a Georgia G right here. Like,
You're gonna have to wear a Bear Alexander
oh hell
jersey
no! That kid,
to a Penn
I've
State
heard
game
he's a
next year.
horrible locker room person.
Yeah,
I've only
yeah.
heard bad things about that guy. I'm glad he's not with us anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, so
ugh,
real quick, this is the new reality, whether we
it's
like
the
it or
new
not.
reality.
And I was having some conversations with some guys at work the other day, and we're talking about how you have to make it to where they have to play in their bowl games. Like you can't. Like that's literally like
Yeah,
the way
I
that this is set
wish.
up is you're supposed to do commercials or something, and that's how you make your money. This is not a it's not supposed to be a pay for play
Yeah,
deal. Shout out to Bryce Underwood for taking $12 million to change schools, um, and for all these other guys who took money to do that. But that's the reality. And so then you look back at like, okay, so what LSU did because this is an SEC school. I mean, an
yeah,
SEC show, and I've got the LSU banner behind me and everything. But there were a lot of people who were very critical of Brian Kelly in that early signing period because we lost Bryce Underwood to Michigan and $12 million. We lost Cade Phillips to Texas and a couple of $1 million, probably, or $1.5 million or something like that. Lost Jakeem Stewart to USC for $2 million. Dude who had played 11 high school football games in his career, and they gave him $2 million. I'm a little worried about like an 18-year-old kid who's only played 11 high school football
that's
games
insane.
and giving
What?
him that kind of money and trusting him. So, but if you look at what LSU did, is they took a step back and they said, we're going to keep our powder dry because when the portal opens and now you have these established guys who've already proven they can do it at the college level,
Hmm.
do it in a Power 4 conference, and they're just looking for a different kind of opportunity or a
Yeah,
better opportunity. Now you have, and they're not as expensive.
yeah.
Like it's not as expensive you're not paying $12 million to get Eric Singleton or that Mateer kid from Washington State.
Yeah.
You're paying a fraction of that,
Mhm.
and this guy's already proven that he can do it at this level. And these other schools are paying 18-year-old kids who are probably going to have to wait a year or two. Like Bryce Underwood, much as talented as he was, and this may have influenced the decision somewhat, he was not going to start if Garrett Nussmeier
No.
comes in. Now, there's an argument that could be made that Garrett Nussmeier probably declares for the draft if Underwood signs. Because he would be thinking like, well, that maybe the writing's on the wall that I'm gonna have to be like competing for my job,
Yeah.
and so I'll just take my chances now rather than risk, going 3 games into the season, missing a little bit of time because of a minor injury, and then Underwood comes in, sets the world on fire, and I never get to see the field again, like
Yeah.
Wally Pipp and Lou Gehrig, right? So, but I'll say this, like the chances were that Bryce Underwood was going to be holding a clipboard for year one
Yeah,
for
and
the
I
most
mean,
part.
that's what some people gotta do, man, and,
Hmm.
you talk about the bowl games, I mean, I it's just, like, tough, like, I think there's
You can't
something
force a kid to
that
play
you
well.
cannot,
Even if you force him to play, you can't force him to play well.
I know it's tough, like,
You know what I mean? Like,
there's
what are you
something
going to do?
about
Hold him
there's
to performance standards too?
there's something about being able, like, as somebody who, like, got to do a little bit of college sports, like, there's something about when you have the opportunity to be, you know, sports while there's no school. Like
Hmm.
that time after the semester ends, but you still get to practice with the boys,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
you still get to, we're gonna give this one last shot with the seniors,
Hmm.
and we're gonna do it this and that. The other thing, like my cousin uh plays for JMU, and they just went down to Boca Raton, and they seem like they had a great time
Hmm.
down in
Hmm.
Boca Raton. You know what I mean? They seem like they had a blast, and they won.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
like I don't know. It's tough at these these high profile guys, like not I don't know. It's
So that's
tough.
what I'm saying. Like your friend or you or me, it's different. Like we like to think that other people are in the same situation that we're in.
Yeah.
But let's be real. Let's say you are Shador Sanders. And I
Mhm.
know that they're supposed to play in their bowl game, and Dion's holding them to that, and we'll see. Um, but say you're Shador Sanders or Cam Ward, okay? And they're talking about you, the two of those guys, who's going to go number one, who's going to go number two
Yep.
as the number one quarterback off the board, right? Okay, you're staring $60 million
Mhm.
as a 23-year-old, 22-year-old in the face. That's a different calculation in your head than you and me, who we're going to go work a regular job when
Yep.
we are done playing,
Yep. Oh,
and
uh-huh.
and tearing our ACL is not going to impact that job.
Oh, for sure. For sure,
Whereas
man.
you're going to fuck up that bag big time if you go
Oh,
out there and get
absolutely.
hurt in a bowl game that, like, look, for for sure, if Colorado and Miami were in the playoff, Shador Sanders and Cam Ward are playing, they're balling out, they're
Yep.
risking injury even to because they have a chance to go grab that brass ring, right?
Yep.
It's a whole different calculus when you're playing in the Boca Raton Bowl or the Chick-fil-A Bowl or whatever, the Peach Bowl, whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever bowl
Yeah.
you end up in, it's a whole different calculus going to play the ReliaQuest Bowl. Like Jalen Milroe,
Yeah.
is he gonna play in the ReliaQuest Bowl? I
Dude,
don't know.
I don't know. And it's like it's hard. Like I mean, I thought it was as a Georgia fan, I thought it was like kind of cool that like
Hmm.
last year when we got like Florida State got hosed, and we sort of like got snubbed a little bit, and then we played them in the bowl game, and what did we
Hmm.
do? We played all of our starters, and what did we
Right.
do? Beat the shit out of them. That was
Yeah.
fun to watch.
Hmm.
And talk about Alabama, the transfer portal. Do we think they're hemorrhaging a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean,
Like just
Justice
like
Haynes, and they lost that other kid, that lineman.
they lost the
They've
receiver
lost.
to Ole Miss too,
Yeah,
or the
and
DB.
I'm not seeing them pick up a bunch of dudes either.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, I know.
not good dudes.
Yeah. I'll be interested to
So.
see, like, once like, I know that, like I'm sure that we're, like I know that there's guys that have been visiting, but
Hmm.
I don't think they're gonna make any portal
all
moves until after we're done, after our
well,
season is said and done.
and all the big names are coming off the board too. That's the other thing
Yeah,
is that like while you keep watching these big names come off the board, they're not going to Alabama. So yeah, I don't know. And yeah, they had a really good class. Like so their freshman class was a good haul.
mhm.
Um, but again, we're gonna have to see because they lost a lot of dudes last year to the portal. Didn't have I mean, they had a really good class, but it wasn't, a 1-2. And then you lose a bunch of dudes to the portal this year. Well, now you start to look at the numbers, and it's like, well, okay, what do we have depth wise and star power wise? And then if Jalen Milrow is not there, then your cheat code is gone
Yeah, it's also not
because
Nick
that dude
Saban.
by himself, if they don't have Jalen Milrow this year,
Yeah.
Alabama loses 6 games.
Yep. Oh, yeah, we beat them. Y'all beat them. Like
hmm
they go maybe
Vanderbilt beats,
500.
I mean, not Vanderbilt, South Carolina beats them.
Yep.
That's
I
three
mean,
more
and
losses right there.
that's credit to Jalen Milrow doing what he does best. You know
hmm
what I mean?
hmm
Like for
hmm
sure. And I will say this, like the person who hates like the college football the way it is now is Nick Saban, and you know that Kalen DeBoer is not getting those guys to play the way Nick Saban got Will Anderson and
hmm
Bryce Young
Bryce
to
Young.
play
Yeah.
against K State. I
Yep.
mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm just ready. We got we're gonna pivot. I think a little bit. We got a 12-team playoff
Yes,
games
indeed.
this weekend. I cannot believe it. Penn State is saying wear white. They're calling. I think it's supposed to like possibly snow this weekend. I don't know if that's true.
hmm
I think it's a perfect scenario for December college football. That's meaningful football in December, mind you, for so many schools and so many teams. I know
Yep.
we talked about it in our kind of our live segment with
hmm
Drew and Jeremiah, but I think we wanted to just kind of revisit it for everybody and kind of give our thoughts and predictions here. Chad, where do you want to start and how do you feel?
So let's start with this. Well, that's not the first game. This is
This
the
is
first
Friday
game.
night. This is
This
Friday night.
Notre Dame, Indiana, right?
Hmm. Indiana
So
State Championship.
yep. So as you know, I do my little predictor model, whatever, the dog
Yeah.
catcher, and I mean it's not perfect. It has some, but typically when you get to this part of the season late, you got a lot of data. There's still some stuff I have to input that it's not complete, so I'm gonna have like official picks, but actually Indiana should be favored in this game according to the model. And so like you
Really?
look at that number one rush defense against Notre Dame's number 11 rush offense. That to me, we're gonna know really early on where does that matchup play out. If
It's
Notre
going to
Dame
be the
can't
biggest
run the
part.
ball, if Notre Dame can't run the ball, they're screwed.
Yep. Because Ryan Leonard can't use his feet and Jeremiah Love can't get going.
Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting to watch that. If Indiana has trouble one way or the other running the ball or throwing the ball, because Notre Dame has a pretty good pass defense, number 3 in the country. That's a pretty good. It's a great pass defense. Um, but but that the ability to run the ball on Notre Dame could be there, even though that's not Indiana's bread and butter. Notre Dame is kind of a middling, they're a decent run defense, but they're vulnerable to that.
Hmm.
So Indiana has a little bit more options to kind of potentially exploit Notre Dame there. And Notre Dame does not have, Riley Leonard has not done his damage through the air. 96th best pass offense, and Indiana has actually even in that Ohio State game. I mean, let's be real. That game close to halftime is 7-7,
Yeah.
and then they snap a punt snap off the punter's hands, and it goes back and Ohio State scoops it up at like the 7-8 yard line, and then scores the next play. So it's not the same. And then they had a punt return for a touchdown as well. So it's in a way it's hard to tell like what Indiana's defense would have really been capable of had those couple of busted plays on special teams not happened, because then we're talking about a very close, one score game in the 20s, maybe in the teens. And I think that's probably what we're looking at here, honestly. is a one-score game, probably in the teens, maybe low 20s.
Yep.
And I know you really want Indiana to win this one because you will get bragging rights for your friend's team not even getting to the matchup against Georgia. But if Notre Dame beats Indiana, it won't be the end of the world because then if you guys can go take a hot dump on Notre Dame in a couple of weeks, then it's
Mhm.
still all good and you still get to talk
Yeah,
shit.
I like Notre Dame. Like their running game is pretty spectacular. For being honest with ourselves, like
Hmm.
they move the ball up the field pretty well. I think it's going to be Indiana limiting their mistakes. They cannot do like if Notre Dame will take just as much advantage of them as
Oh,
Ohio State did,
yeah,
and then
you've turned the
some.
ball over like
Yeah,
that
you're
and make those
done. You're
critical
done.
errors. Yeah,
Especially with
you're going to
Notre
be in
Dame
trouble.
being able to defend the pass so well. Curtis Walker's got to bring his best, or they're not even going to have a chance. Like
Hmm.
this is Indiana is more live in this game than people think. However,
Hmm.
I think it could get away from them quickly. Like
Yeah.
if things don't bounce the right way, early on, then I think Notre Dame could potentially run away with it. You got to limit the mistakes. Like, Notre Dame put the dagger in USC on defense, taking a pick back to the house. Like it's going to be tough. And
So the
this is
one thing
Marcus
I'll say
Freeman
though,
coaching big time football, which I don't know if he's
yeah,
really had the chance to prove himself in this arena yet. Actually,
right.
coaching football that matters right now,
Hmm.
other than just your regular Notre Dame
So
regular season. Hey, we
so
won all our
that's what I
games.
was going to say is you take that and you take Signetti
Hmm.
and that chip on their shoulder, nobody believes in us, underdog mentality that it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight and the dog kind of
Hmm.
approach that they have taken all year, really. And I think in a way, like the pressure is on Notre Dame.
I
If
think so
Notre
too.
Dame coughs this one up, it's like they've been exposed as like we told you shouldn't have been here. This is why you don't play in a conference. You kind of got like given a spot in here. We all told you after you lost to Northern Illinois you probably didn't belong in the playoff, but you went on a run against your mediocre rest of your schedule and you made it look good, but you're really not that good. That sort of stuff, that narrative starts to creep
Yeah.
in. And like you said, Marcus Freeman, like what's his okay, so he had the road win against Texas A&M to start this season, but they struggled last year in big games. And this year they haven't really had big games. Closest thing you can get is like what USC in the Coliseum, and they almost lost that one. If they don't throw a 100-yard pick six,
Yeah.
like USC is about to score to tie that game, maybe go for two and win it. And what's his name? Mavia, what's the
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure how to say the kid's name.
Jaden
Yeah.
Mayava? I think that's
Yeah.
it. Jaden Mayava
Hmm.
throws. It looks like he and the receiver kind of miscommunicated. He threw a back shoulder throw, and the receiver kept going,
Hmm.
and so the DB is just like right there and,
Had a
and picks
free
it
and
and then
clear
takes it
shot
the
to the.
distance.
Yeah.
So it's those little things like that where I think Notre Dame actually having an opportunity to get punched in the mouth by a team that's going to come with like that dog in them,
Hmm.
and they're both playing for the same thing, except that I think Indiana is in that everybody will kind of give Indiana and Kurt Signetti a pass if they play this one close and don't win. If
Hmm.
Notre Dame loses this game, it's like here we go again. Should you have really even been any? Especially if they lose by like two touchdowns or something.
I
It's
mean,
like good grief, man. You guys need to schedule some people next year
we've
because
been
we
saying
don't
it
know if
since
you
the
really belong
BC.
here.
I mean, it's been the thing for them since the BCS era, though. Like they got that shot at
Hmm.
Alabama, and Alabama
Lost
took a
42 to
shit all over
14.
their chest. Like,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
listen, if as a Kirk Herbstreit take of the SEC, the national championship game was actually played in the SEC championship between Georgia and Alabama in that year. We'll
Yeah.
say that. That's my
Yeah.
Kirk Herbstreit take for that season. And
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
Manti Te'o and then went and got shit on by Alabama.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Hmm.
I want Indiana, but I think I don't know. Like I don't want to talk myself into Indiana too much and then have Notre Dame just run away with it. Just
Right.
like we thought that Indiana could do something against Ohio State and couldn't. and this is in
Hmm.
South Bend in front of Touchdown Jesus and the Indiana State Championship.
Hmm.
I mean, all the dogs are live this weekend. Like, I think
Yeah.
every single one of them has a chance, and I think that within a touchdown is a reasonable prediction here for sure. Like you said,
Yeah. I mean,
low teens,
I've
mid
got,
20s.
but I've got Indiana favored in this one by like 5, 6 points. So we'll see. It's going to be we get to play them on the field now, Tyler. So
Yes, we do.
we don't have to just sit here and say like, well, Indiana shouldn't be in this game, so we're not going to let them in this game.
Yep.
They actually are in this game and they get to play it. So here we go. Um, so now let's go to this Clemson Texas matchup, because this is another one where, while I think Texas is correctly
I
favored
think
here,
Clemson is
I
in
think
this.
Clemson's live.
Yes. They Clemson, in my opinion, is funny enough, being the 5-12 game. I think Clemson is the most live team this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm willing to say it. I'm so willing to say it. Like, I think Clemson is the most, other than it Clemson and Tennessee are 1A and 1B. But I think, I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
like
Clemson's there.
so right now, the river is about to come. Texas is up in the hand. They've got the they got the best hand, but Clemson has like 13 outs.
Yep.
So it's like they are very live. And I think, so Texas's big thing is that pass rush, and like being able to disrupt the passing game, and then also being able to um, stuff like a standard running game.
Hmm.
But what they tend to struggle against, as you saw with Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia, you saw it with who was Van
Singleton.
Buren and Mississippi State. Even they struggled a little
Yeah,
bit,
and Taylor Green.
and Talon Green um, gave them a real run for their money when they almost lost to Arkansas. But Arkansas.
They sure did.
Um, Cade Klubnik
Can move.
and his ability to run with the ball, and then also like Clemson has some receivers.
They do.
Now, I think they exposed a very bad SMU secondary in the ACC championship game, but Clemson's got some dudes that can go get the ball and they can get open, and they can run after the catch too. And
Yeah.
that's one of Texas's vulnerabilities, has been their secondary. They're not a great secondary. They have their that number 12 or I'm sorry, that number one pass defense, um, I think is built on their pass rush
Yep.
and their
Oh,
ability to
yeah.
disrupt your passing game up front. But if you can get time to throw, or in Klubnik's case, scramble around and create time for yourself, then you can exploit that.
I mean, Stockton even did a little bit against Texas in the in the second half of the
Hmm.
SEC championship. Like, Stockton can move a little bit. I think
Hmm.
Klubnik can do that a little bit even more. Shoot, he ran for a 50-yard touchdown to ice the game against Pitt. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And
Hmm.
it's great. And I give Klubnik specifically and the Clemson team as a whole, for they came out against us and we destroyed them. And
Yeah.
everybody, including myself, I'm pretty sure you did too. We said
Hmm.
Clemson is irrelevant this year. Get him out
Yeah.
of here. Don't even worry about him.
Hmm.
And then they said, okay, let's watch us put up 50 points a game
Right.
and just do the damn thing up until
Hmm.
winning. And here they are, ACC champions, even still. So I give them a
Hmm.
lot of credit for that.
Yeah.
And they, lost to South Carolina in a very close one, a good South Carolina team. South Carolina,
Yeah.
is playing their best ball. What has Texas done at this point? Now that we have beaten them twice, what has Texas truly done? And my answer is not much, because
Right.
their best win right now is probably Texas A&M,
Yeah. Texas
and
A&M.
and I will say this: that is away at Kyle Field in College Station. You blanked out. I'm still talking. We're good. That
I'm
is,
still here.
yeah, you're still here. We're good. And it's in College Station. Um, and I think that they really, they can get got by teams like that, especially teams that you just disappeared entirely. We'll have to pause our situation here.
Just keep going, man.
Oh, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I was gonna say, I was trying to keep going, and then I was like, we can cut this if we need to. We'll figure it out.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, Clemson going to Austin. I think they're very alive. Texas, what have you done for me lately? The answer is nothing. I think that Ewers with that bum ankle. I think that Clemson's gonna be able to get to him a little bit. I definitely Clemson covers us by a mile. No problem. And
Yeah.
I think do I really want to call my shot and call the upset? Do I want to do it?
Look, so one thing we haven't talked about is Quinn Ewers
Yeah.
and like the pressure because there's been a lot
He
of
makes
talk, and I
mistakes under
think he's looking
pressure.
over his shoulder a little bit, and I wonder how that's going to play in this one because Arch Manning is there waiting in the wings, and is Sarkeesian going to be Saban enough to bring in Tua, you know? And is the potential of that, but him not doing it, going to cause Quinn Ewers to maybe cost them the game by being a little too hesitant and allow instead of because what if Texas plays like with their hair on fire and goes and comes out swinging, they should beat Clemson by a couple of touchdowns.
Right.
But what I saw against you guys and what I've seen a couple of other times is that Quinn Ewers will play a little hesitant, will not be completely, it won't be as aggressive as he needs to be,
Hmm.
and he ends up taking sacks or he ends up playing playing a little soft, I guess. And so I'm interested to see how that dynamic plays out with him looking at Arch Manning, kind of breathing down his neck.
What's your prediction?
I'm with you. I think Clemson covers. I think it's probably a one score game, and I expect Texas to win,
Yeah.
but I would not be surprised at all if
Hmm.
Clemson wins this one.
Yep.
I think we're looking at probably a field goal, and this could be one of those that I don't know if it goes to overtime, but it could be a
Uh,
final possession game.
yeah, like at the horn type of like
Hmm.
you gotta
Hmm.
the team who has the ball last wins the game.
Yeah, well, so and I don't even know that it's necessarily that because it could be like one of these like 23-21 type
Hmm.
deals where you get the ball and you have the ball last, but you fail to convert and get to the point where you get the field goal.
Yeah.
Because you've got a couple of defenses that play pretty well too.
Yep.
Um, Clemson is sitting there with a middling defense, but if you look at Texas's offense, and they have kind of played down to their competition a few times.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Clemson's able to keep it close and somewhat low scoring.
Yep.
So the other game that's a little closer to where you are, SMU and Penn State. Everybody's just talking about this thing like it's a foregone conclusion that Penn State's just going to roll them up. And I find it hard to disagree because I'm hearing it's going to be, even though it's like a noon game or whatever, it's going to be like I don't know, 20 degrees or something in that realm. I don't know if SMU's play style is equipped for that. It kind of plays into that big corn-fed,
Hmm.
thick Penn State style versus the speed on the edge SMU style. But I don't know, man. Like sometimes speed plays in the snow too, or even if it's not snowing in the cold. You know,
Yeah.
the thing we don't know is like how those guys are going to respond to that weather.
27
Um,
degrees and snow is what it's predicted
oh,
for
and snow.
Saturday.
There is going to be snow. Okay.
27 degrees and some snow
Mm.
for Saturday in State College,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
So I think this spread is accurate, and I
Yep.
think Penn State probably covers it.
Yeah, this is the only
Um,
one where I feel good about the favorite, like
yeah.
pretty solid about the favorite, other than Notre Dame. Like, I feel
Mhm.
good about Penn State in this one. Drew Aller's coming back for next year, so they feel good about that.
Bo Prabula's not, but that's another.
That's that's
We already
unfortunate.
went through that.
There's only one quarterback, unfortunately, in in football. It's kind of how it is. Um, but that's the thing though, is that Penn State is like the last, however many years has always had the lovable backup. It's always been their thing when they had Tommy Stevens and Trace McSorley. Um, anyway, yeah, I like Penn State here. Noon game, whiteout conditions, whiteout in the stands, whiteout on the field. I love it.
It's going to be an all-out whiteout. But the other thing that we haven't talked about is there going to be enough room for James Franklin to choke this one away?
Uh,
Um,
I'm sure he'll
Perhaps
get the
not.
opportunity.
He-
SMU might. You never know. Hey, listen, they're not ranked top 10.
yeah,
They're not top
right.
10. They're 11. He might be safe.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Oh shoot. Well, that technically they're
Oh, are they ranked higher than 11? I don't even
no,
know what
they're
they're
not.
ranked.
No, you're right. You're right. They were eighth, but then they fell to this spot,
Yeah,
and they got in where they are. And Clemson's actually behind them, but Clemson
yeah,
gets a higher, or gets the automatic bid because of the conference deal. So this is the big one that everybody is hyped up about. I mean, it's great that it's the primetime game. I'm stoked about this one. Um, I don't know if you saw it, but the Ohio State athletic director had to go out and like start begging Ohio State fans to stop selling their tickets on the
yeah,
secondary market because the Tennessee fans figured out the hack that they just went and started scooping up tickets on the secondary because they only got 3,500. And
yeah,
when you do the math on like once you get the band taken care of,
yeah,
you get the coaches, families, players' families, and all that
yeah,
stuff. There's about 1,500 tickets left, maybe 2,000 tickets left for like just fans traveling.
yeah.
So it's going to be just this tiny little pocket of Tennessee fans, unless Tennessee does what they did, and those fans they're like, hey, Columbus ain't that far of a drive. Let's go scoop up these tickets on SeatGeek and wherever else,
Yep.
Vivid Seats and Tick Pick and whatever else. And so they've been scooping them up, and the Ohio State athletic director had to go and tell people, stop selling your tickets to Tennessee fans,
Dude, I love it though.
because
Listen,
there's
they're
talk
coming.
about them possibly having 10 to 20,000,
Yeah,
maybe even the stretch goal was like 30K
yeah,
in
that's
the
the
seats.
possibility.
And if that happens, and the shoe gets kind of like even in a minor way, like because if you think about 3,000 fans, you can't really hear.
No.
10,000, it starts to be in certain moments,
Hmm.
you can start to hear it. You get to 20, 25, 30, and you can take over the stadium.
That's like the size of Vanderbilt's entire stadium,
Yeah, for real, for real.
right
But I'm
there.
saying, like,
No, I'm
if
with
it's a
you.
70-30 split
Right.
or 75-25, like, depending on the moment, you could drown them out.
Yeah, you absolutely can, and it's just like this whole this game rests on two people,
Mm-hmm.
and how it's gonna go. It's Ryan Day and
Yep.
Nico Iamaleava. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. It rests on those two people
Yep.
to see how things work. Ryan Day seems like he's at a mental blender since losing to Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just not. He's a shell of a man right now, is what it seems like. And the sad part is he has a roster to win the whole thing if he really wanted to. Um, I just
Do you think anybody scores 20 points in this game?
in this game,
Look at these defensive numbers. You got Ohio State has the number 6 rush defense, the number 2 pass defense. Tennessee's the number 9 rush defense, the number 10 pass defense. And it's not like they're great on offense in any of those categories either. They're all kind of middling, except Tennessee is really good at running the ball, but that's Ohio State's one of their big strengths. And the other thing is too, what we haven't talked about is what if that game starts to go sideways early and Tennessee gets up by a touchdown or 10 points or God forbid 2 touchdowns? Does the shoe turn on Ryan Day
I mean,
in real time?
it's entirely possible. I mean, I don't know where Ohio State fans lay in many different areas as far as how they feel about Ryan Day right now.
Hmm.
I feel like their last straw is with him is with this college football playoff
Hmm.
essentially. Like this is it because you know Ohio State coaches are measured by two things: is national championships to beat Michigan, and he's
Correct.
essentially done neither at this point.
Hmm.
So what are you going to do? Um, I don't know. It's Tennessee. They have the ability, and it's a matter of if they can execute.
Yeah.
Tennessee's defense is really solid.
Hmm.
Dylan Sampson is you can always go to him, but this is Nico's moment,
Hmm.
if anything else, to really show us what he's got and for him to be able to play in big games. Because he was able
Yeah.
to beat Alabama at home but he has not had a road
He's
win. They
struggled
lost.
on the road.
They
Yeah.
lost down in Fayetteville. He
Mm-hmm.
lost in Athens. So
Mm-hmm.
this is where it gets crazy. This is it. This is a out
Yeah.
of conference December. It's going to be cold. It's one of the biggest stadiums in the country. This is
Mm-hmm.
no joke. And you got to bring your stuff, or it
Yeah.
could get ugly. Like Ohio State's going to do their best to control. I think that Ohio State can control Tennessee's offense. It's a matter
Mm-hmm.
of can Ohio State on the flip side get their offense going, and will Howard
Well,
limit his mistakes as well?
and I was gonna say, in turnovers,
Yes.
mistakes, that kind of stuff.
They got to throw the ball. Throw
Yeah,
the ball. Don't run the ball up the goddamn middle. I think you do
yeah,
just fine. Like
yeah.
you have
But Tennessee's secondary is good, and their pass
yeah,
rush is good too. So it's
Jeremiah
like
Smith needs
it,
to eat.
it's going to be tough. It's going to be a real. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that one. I think Ohio State should win it, but I just, man, it's so hard
They
to
should.
really make a call on this
In
one
my mind, they
because
should, but I agree.
and I actually like Josh Heupel in a situation like this more than I like Ryan Day. And so if
Oh,
it
for
comes down to
sure.
that sort of situation, I actually favor Tennessee in that scenario. I just don't know if the all the talent that Ohio State bought through the portal last year, i- is it enough to where they actually pull it off and it overwhelms Tennessee to the point that
Yeah.
Ryan Day can't even get in the way of it.
I don't.
I think
Yeah.
that's a possibility, but
That's what I
I
mean.
I I give Tennessee more than a puncher's chance for sure.
For absolutely. I think that Heupel. I mean, Heupel's got more signature wins in his belt than Ryan Day does at this point
Mm-hmm.
in their
Mm-hmm.
careers, coaching for their schools. So we'll
Right.
see. All I know is it's just what we've been dreaming about, what we've been
Mm-hmm.
waiting for. It's here. Enough of that transfer portal nonsense. These players are all playing this weekend. That's a guarantee, and we're
That's right.
excited here at the South End Zone. I cannot wait. Georgia gets to relax a little bit, figure
Mm-hmm.
things out. See where we go as far as our quarterback situation. I would be shocked if we see Carson Beck play. I really, really do.
Yeah.
I am, excuse me, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun. 12-team playoff is finally here. Only been waiting my entire life for this. So no big deal. Thanks NCAA for finally getting this shit together. Actually, it wasn't even the NCAA. It was just like look at that. The dogs are barking.
Dogs are barking.
Cannoli knows even when they're not playing, the dogs bark. So maybe that means something. Maybe Indiana actually pulls it off. Maybe Clemson actually pulls it off. Tennessee, we're looking at you. I don't
Hmm.
know about SMU, but you could have some dogs barking this weekend. That's one thing there's a lot of assumptions, and I watched Paul Feinbaum the other day, and there's just all this talk about like, oh yeah, so and so's not, Penn State's going to win that one, and oh yeah, and Boise State's going to get blown out, whatever. Like, we don't know this.
We do
Like,
not.
this is the kind of stuff that, like, if you have been watching the NCAA tournament, and I know basketball is different. You hit some threes. Another team goes cold. It's a whole different thing. If you got bigger, faster, stronger dudes, most of the time you can just kind of push them around. But when you're talking about 12 teams, this isn't 68 teams. This isn't a 1 versus 16 where it's really like 1 versus 64. This
Mhm.
is like the worst case scenario is the number one team in the country is going to play either Ohio State or Tennessee next week.
Yep.
So, like, that's where we are right now. Everybody is vulnerable to lose, and everybody is capable of
There is
winning.
no invincible team in this playoff, and
Right.
that's what makes it great.
hmm And I mean, you could say, SMU, Arizona State, Boise State, probably their, snowball's chance in hell of winning the whole thing. But we don't know. Like,
We really don't. We're
I
gonna
can't
find
wait to
out.
just watch this thing play out, because when it finally plays out and something crazy happens, and then we're just like, okay, next year nobody can say shit because you don't
Mm,
know.
you don't know. We won't
Now,
know.
if Oregon just runs right through this thing like shit through a tin horn, then it's then we're just like, okay, well,
Yeah.
we'll have to wait for another year for for this thing to be competitive. But anyway, I'm stoked. I'm pumped. Can't wait for it.
Yeah, dude.
And so, with that, we will leave you guys. This is the South End Zone. Don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. We appreciate everybody coming through all season. We're not done yet. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to preview every round. We're going to recap every round. and we're going to keep watching the transfer portal and watching all this player movement, and then as we get into the next transfer portal season and spring practices and all that stuff, we're going to keep keeping you posted on all that stuff as we look forward to the 2026 season. But for now, um, LSU still has a bowl game left to play, and Georgia still has a national championship to go win. So we're going to keep it locked in the
Hmm.
2025 season. And Tyler and I will see you next time. Appreciate y'all coming through. This is South End Zone. We're out. Peace, y'all.